Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Immigrant Success Canada's podcast, your coaching program for a successful and happy life in Canada. My name, co host, and co founder is Emmanuel Petrescu.
I'm Charlie Beck.
And this episode, we have again as a guest our dear friend, life coach, marketing genius, and a wonderful person, Marta Chen. Hi, Marta, and thank you for being back to our episode for another show.
Well, thank you for the great introduction. I'm not sure I could top that.
You don't need to. They are all true. We had Marta as a guest in the previous episode where she talked about the entrepreneurial spirit and what tips and tricks one needs to succeed if he decides to go that route, but not necessarily as an entrepreneur, but overall in life, in business, in his working environment, and so on. And today's episode is titled Canadian View about Immigrants. So we'll focus more, and Charlie will lead this conversation. We'll focus more on your view as a Canadian about immigrants, immigrations, and so on. But before diving right in and passing the baton to Charlie, I would like to take a moment to talk about our program, which can be found as at ISC go.com, so isc-go.com, and it's a coaching program for newcomers. Charlie and I built it in a way, we structured it in a way uh, we wish we had when we came to Canada, and its main purpose is to help you live a successful and happy, underline the happiness, life in Canada for the next 20 years and beyond, for the next 120 years. That being said, more information can be found at our website. It's here on the screen, but for those who are listening, isc-go.com, you'll find their contact forms, links to our social media profiles, and including this episode's transcript and video, where all the information will be there. That said, Charlie, would you like to lead this conversation with Marta?
Thank you very much, Emmanuel. I'm really happy to host this episode and to talk with Martha. The topic is about Canadians' view about immigrants. So for our audience, it's somewhat serious but very important topic because as an immigrant, they want to know how Canadians view them. So my first question to Martha is, overall, as a Canadian, what is your view about immigrants in Canada?
My view could be biased by the fact that I am an immigrant myself. I came to Canada when I was 17. That was 51 years ago. My view is that immigrants are hardworking people who come to Canada with a dream. They have sacrificed a lot to come here, and they are ready for an opportunity to demonstrate the skills that they bring with them and to help Canada or your company if they were to work for you, or your business if they were to start their own business to help another business. They're ready to help and to contribute. I think that if we as Canadians can offer immigrants the opportunities, we won't regret it.
Okay, that's great starting point, and you mentioned. So I think it seems that you are somewhat very positive about immigrants. So as we know very well, our federal government announced that we will accept about 500,000 immigrants up to 2025. So this is a lot of people. And so some Canadians are worrying about, and other Canadians really happy about it. We're accepting more people. So, do you think this is a good policy? So, as a Canadian, do we really need 500,000 people every year come to Canada? So, what is your view about it?
One of the things that you should know about me is that I don't get influenced by outside factors. It doesn't concern me how many people there are coming as immigrants, nor does it concern me how many small businesses there are. Let me check before I start my own. That, that just is secondary, if you will. What's most important is I know my life is up to me. I'm responsible for how my life is going to turn out. So it doesn't matter how many immigrants there are. If there are too many, there are not enough. It doesn't matter. Create your own plan and go forward.
That's a great point, but let me go a bit deeper, okay, to your point. So, I'll tell you my story very briefly. I love playing sports, so I play badminton, and one of the gentlemen I met at the badminton place, he told me that, Charlie, all the immigrants take away our jobs, so we stop accepting immigrants. So he was really concerned about it. So what would you respond to him, and then do you agree with his point or no? What is your view about that?
Sure, no one can take away my job. The only fear that I have of someone taking away my job would come from the fact that I am not good at my job. How could you take away my job if I'm better than you? It's just not a concern. And I know the immigrants, not only do they come with skills, they always come with an attitude that they will give 110%. If it works out, fantastic. If it doesn't work out, go somewhere else. You want to be welcomed. You don't need to suffer. I don't believe in suffering. There are
Hmm.
opportunities everywhere. Don't get stuck in your head. Don't get
Mm,
stuck in your head about what it is that you should be doing or not doing, or kowtowing to someone who make comments like that. They are them. Let them be.
mm.
Let them
Okay,
be.
that's great. So now I'd like to move on next topic, which is a little bit more serious. So let's talk about racism and discrimination in Canada. So a lot of people across the world like to come to Canada, but they fear that what if I will be discriminated because of my race or my background? So that could be very legitimate concerns. So do you have any your own experience, or what do you think about for immigrants? Do they will they experience discrimination in Canada or not? What kind of things they can expect?
Discriminations come in various forms and severity. You may not know that you're being discriminated against, nor would the person who's discriminating you would necessarily tell you, I'm discriminating against you now. So I don't know how many times I've been discriminated against. I can share with you some blatant ones. When I was in high school, when I first came to Canada, I was 17. So I went to high school uh, uh, for a few months. One of my math teacher wouldn't give me the A that I deserved because I aced everything, but he wouldn't give it to me. I was too young to even know what it was. I have no idea what it was until some classmates pointed out to me that he was a racist. So, okay, I got it. That day on, I understand that when someone is a racist, there's no logic that I could appreciate as to why it is that they're doing whatever they're doing. They're just doing whatever they're doing. I'll give you another example. This time it's not Perhaps I was also discriminated because of my race, but blatantly this time is because I'm a woman. I was 27 working at, I won't name the company name. I asked for a promotion, and my boss, who was a man, about 40 years old, he told me, "You are a woman. You have gone as far as you can." I'm 27. I just started. What are you talking about? Right? So, those are my thoughts. Rise above these people and their little mind, but just rise above it. Do whatever it takes to rise above it. I, first of all, manage my mindset. I'm not going to let them pull me down. Second, I went to HR, filed a complaint. Guess what? I got a promotion. Don't forget, there are people who are rooting for you. You just have to know that there are people who are rooting for you and seek them out. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. Rise above all of that.
Okay, that's a great advice. And so, Emmanuel, what about you? You have been here, I think, less than 10 years, but have you ever experienced any racism or discrimination?
Funny question for me, but obviously you experience uh, as a newcomer some form of discomfort, especially when you talk with an accent. That exists, and to an extent, even from the custom, whenever at the moment you land to the airport, you kind of like get a sense of the existence of it. It's unfortunate, and to Martha's point, I personally take that as fuel to work even harder, to prove myself even more and rise above everyone else, especially those who try to pull you down through these kinds of remarks. And obviously, there's things that you can improve overall. The accent won't go away, but by being aware of, for example, or your race or your background, that won't go away. But by trying to improve yourself, finding mentors, finding coaches, finding different organizations can help you uh, be a better version of yourself. I don't think these remarks will go away anytime soon because this is how people are. But as said, for me, I take them as a fuel to work harder, which has worked for me so far.
Mm. Okay, that's good. And I'd like to comment just one thing in Canada for new immigrants. So in Canada, we have, I can call three groups of people. So Canadians and immigrants and indigenous people in Canada. So before I moved to Northern Ontario, I didn't know very much about the indigenous peoples in Canada. And now I have lived in Northern Ontario for 15 years, and I have worked for Ontario government for 20 years. So for the last 20 years, I've experienced and I've learned a lot about indigenous peoples, their culture and their what kind of impacts they have. So as an immigrant, you will understand it, what kind of relationships and the collaboration and how we live together. So that's kind of another dynamics and then where we are moving forward. So on that context, Martha, I think for our government, for Ontario government, we are trying to improve the relationships with the indigenous peoples. And then at the same time, so my next question would be how we can live together better. So immigrants and non-immigrants, and do you have any, you already gave us great advice, but still for new immigrants, still it'll be challenging when they experience it and then so what kind of things they need to understand it.
That's a great question. As a coach, my position is dare to dream and be successful. dare to dream and be successful. Because already immigrants, they dared to dream. They came to Canada, right? I want them to continue to dream and I want them to be successful. We as successful people need to help other people to be successful. I know a lot of people who are new immigrants, long-time immigrants, and I know a few indigenous people. I cannot say that I have a lot of them in my circle, but every day, every interaction that we have with these people, if we could just lift them up, you can tell if someone is has lost their dreams. They no longer talk about what is possible. They talk about all the hurdles that are in front of them. Step in, tap them on their shoulders, and say, remember whatever it was that you know that their dreams are all about. The other thing is, as an employer, I offer immigrants opportunities. In our company, at one point, we have maybe 15 people, I can't remember. We used to laugh about how we were the United Nations. We had
Imagine
people from,
that.
yeah, we had people from Malaysia, Colombia, Poland, Jamaica. I can't even name it all. Emmanuel, you were once my employee. Emmanuel's from Romania, Pakistan. I can't name them all. Why is that our company is the United Nations? It's partly because we wanted to give back. We wanted to give immigrants an opportunity because we know the return is there. They are hardworking people who are looking for opportunities. So all we have to do is step up, step forward, open ourselves up.
And that's why it's important to have somebody close to you who you can talk to and you can relate to, because I'm still doing a lot of work in the immigrant space, and I cannot tell you how many successful people I've met, but also how many very way more talented than I or other successful people I have met who haven't fulfilled their potential because they, I wouldn't say let themselves, but the situation was that they were affected more than they should by some of the comments or what we discussed they have experienced before that, as I use them as fuel because I had the right people close to me. Maybe that's an important factor. I had the family, and I was fortunate enough to work with people such as Martha Chan, such as Dan, who read her spouse and the partner in the business I've been working on. And whenever I had that, I turned to you to, get another perspective, another view, another help in that sense, right? Not just the business wise, but also the personal side. So that's one of the reasons we also created this program, to be close to the people who need us and to provide them with guidance, with coaching, and with help based on the experience that we had.
Yes, I think that's a great point. And I like to just add one more comment based on Martha and Emmanuel's talk. So, Martha mentioned about the positive attitude. That's very important. And as we know, there are still many immigrants who feel unhappy, and then some people even they go back to their home country because this is not for them. So I also experienced a very difficult time in my first 5 years in Canada. So when I first came to Canada, my dream was really big, but the reality was not like that. So I was really unhappy for the first 5 years. So at one point I also like to give up and then go back to Korea. Okay, this is not for me. Why did I come here? So, but my second thought was, oh, I cannot give it up here yet. I chose this country, and then for me and my family, and I kept working. So I had to work two jobs for the first 5 years. So when I look back my last 20 years, there are, especially the first 5 years was a really tough time. So I think it can be very common to most immigrants because they have to settle it down and then moving forward. So that's why Emmanuel and I developed this program, because please don't give up, because first time it's very common, but they may not know that and they don't understand it. And then so that's why we like to teach and coaching them. Okay, when you go through that first critical stage, and then the next stage is growing stage, and then the next one is you can really grow like a Martha, or like really being successful or like that. So that's why we developed a 20 years program. So you have to have a long-term perspective. Also, you have to enjoy both the outcome and the process, right? During the process. So that's kind of work and life balance, and then how you balance yourself and your family, all those things. So that's why we like to provide this coaching program with the quality and long-term focus. I think, yeah, that's, I like to add your point. So Martha, you were really successful, but there are, you also knew that, right? There were people who are struggling, right? So for them, we need to, yeah, we'd like to give some coaching and advice, and then that's the whole goal of this program and this coaching program.
Oh, I am a strong believer in having a coach. You may not have a coach for everything, but whatever matters to you that you want to forward, get a coach. Sometimes people are stuck, they don't know how to get out of it. Get a coach. Unless you do something different, you're going to keep on being stuck.
And that's something many newcomers don't know about, the overall the benefits of coaching and the even the industry, or what exactly does it mean. For example, because of the society, because of the culture that they came from, even from my culture nowadays, it's quite common and people talk about it. But when I grew up, or even when I was in my 20s, coaching was not exactly the first element on the first thing in the menu, basically, or on the first page even, right? It was just starting out. So our listeners might not be so familiar as we are about what a coaching and mentorship and all these programs mean. That's why we like to emphasize a lot on the benefits and on the finding also the right coach, because there's also the possibility of finding the wrong one that may lead you to an undesired path. But I like to think that we can learn from every experience.
Yeah, actually, that's a great practical point. Yeah, coaching. So me too. When I came to Canada, I thought my English was very good, but actually that was not true. My English communication needs to improve a lot to be really professional, and then there are a lot of nuances and then context to be really good at English communication. So I hired a communication coach, and then I took private lessons for the last 10 years to improve myself. So sometimes it's tough. I know that as a new immigrant, you are very cautious about cost, right? So you don't want to spend the money, but you have to be a little bit more aggressive and then smart, and then having a coach, and then also using other programs like Toastmasters or like that, right? So you can do that. So those opportunities, and then those are very important for your long-term success. So that's
It's an
why,
investment.
yeah,
It's an investment. You have to invest in yourself. That's
yeah.
simple as that.
But as a new immigrant, your money is very tight, so they feel that, oh, I cannot spend this money, right? That kind of things. But that you need to kind of think about, yeah, as Martha said, this is investment, okay, to my career and then for the long-term success. So that kind of some of mindset, yeah, need to be changed there.
Charlie, I just want to pick up on what you said. When I started coaching 30 years ago,
Yeah,
was met with a lot of resistance, even among people who are in my coaching courses, because when it's only human, when someone seems to be challenging us, that sometimes we resist it. We resist it because of many thoughts in our heads. One could be, I already know that, you don't have to tell me. The other is would be that I know you did it, but it's I won't be able to do it, right? Including thoughts like you said, I don't have the money. Some people have the money, but they don't have the time. I mean, you could have all kinds of reasons, all kinds of thoughts as to why you should do it or you shouldn't take on being coached. The question I have for us as coaches is, can we take a stand and stay the course with people who may waver, right? Because we're often, my viewpoint is, I'm here to tap them on their shoulder. Hey, remember your dreams? When they've forgotten their dreams. Sometimes it's momentarily they've forgotten about them. Sometimes they forget about them for a long time. How many times do I need to remind them? As many times as it's required. That's what, for me, being a coach is. Stand for someone's dream when they are not standing for their own dreams. So hopefully, our message will come through for people to realize that maybe investing in themselves, investing in your program is something that they need to really, really consider.
thank you for your great advice.
Powerful statement, Martha. Thank you.
Okay, I think, yeah, this is a great ending story. So I think, yeah, we took a lot of time from Martha. So great advice. And then, so Emmanuel, what about we wrapping up our episode and then move on?
Sure thing. Thank you so much, Marta, for being here on the second episode, and I hope you'll join us some other time at a later date because you have so much knowledge that our listeners and even ourselves would benefit from hearing because I've been
Absolutely.
enjoying listening to these episodes uh, as a listener. Before wrapping up, I'd like to remind everyone's watching or listening about our website www.isc-go.com. So Immigrant Success Canada, the initials -go.com. Our coaching program for a successful, because many people are successful, but wait for it, happy life in Canada, because success, it's an important factor, of course, but also being happy and being able to enjoy. And to wrap up, everything was said. Although sometimes the climate can be harsh, including the weather, but also people and the interaction you have, regardless of all those things, Canada is probably, in my opinion, the best place you can live on the planet and offers you the possibility to be happy and successful in the field that you like to be in. And many times I've met many immigrants who didn't knew they were passionate or love what they currently doing, right? So Canada also offers you the possibility to discover new passions, new ways of living, a new sport, a new hobby, a new career perhaps. So it can be done. And I'm going to leave it end with a quote one of my mentors, one of my coaches, when I came to Canada, told me just before I had the final interview with Martha and her company. He said to me, "Don't worry, you're in the right country." Thank you for listening to us. My name is Emanuel Petrescu, co-host and co-founder. My partner and co-host Charlie,
Hi, I was Charlie.
and our guest Marta. Any words of wisdoms in the end for our listeners slash watchers,
I
viewers?
love that you make sure that the happiness is in there, because what is life all about? Really, right?
Mm.
When I leave you here, I'm about to go on another podcast, and it's called Joyful Life Project. So let's end on that note, and maybe I'll share the Joyful Life Project podcast with you. Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure and my privilege to be here.
Thank you, Martha.
Thank you, Marta. Thank you to our listeners. Until the next episode.